What if the reason you're exhausted, overwhelmed, and struggling with sleep isn't your schedule, but your breath? In today's episode of Single Parent Success Stories, I'm joined by Tim Thomas, a former Special Forces soldier turned breathwork expert who shares how sleep, mindfulness, and simple breathing techniques can completely transform your mental health and parenting. We talk about stress management, emotional well being, and why you can only give from overflow. Stick around till the end because Tim shares practical breathwork tools you can use tonight to sleep better and feel calmer, even in the middle of your single parenting life. Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Give the woman in your life something that truly matters, or better yet, give it to yourself. The gift inside is for every woman who spent decades being everything to everyone else. It's time to remember who you are and rediscover your happiness. This isn't just a book, it's a permission to put yourself first again. Available now, because the best gift you can give is helping someone find themselves. Welcome, Tim. He's a former Special Forces soldier who now helps everyday people and businesses get their energy back by fixing one of the most overlooked problems out there, poor sleep. Tim has been on the front lines of veteran recovery, helping create programs that saved lives and raised over $1 million for mental health research. If you're tired, running on coffee, or feeling like burnout is just part of the job, this episode is for you. Welcome, Tim. It is a pleasure to have you.
Irina, it's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to our time together.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. And I forgot to mention, Tim is also a single parent of 2 kids. So let's begin by first, Tim, sharing who you are, how you became a single parent. So please go ahead.
My journey in that space was I was married for 20 years and then we separated, and the kids had shared custody between my then wife, which I call my then wife, not my ex-wife, because I truly stand for a positive future in that relationship. So my experience in that space was all of a sudden with my kids and all of a sudden without my kids. And in that space, I discovered just how devastating poor sleep could be on a person's psyche. And you know, poor sleep isn't relative to any one particular person. But when I heard about the Single Parent podcast, I really wanted to contribute, because often poor quality sleep is a real thing when you're looking after kids, and it's all about the other person and it's not about you, and we somehow equate our suffering to someone benefiting from that. And so in that space of separation from my kids, I discovered some things that were natural and immediate that I thought, well, if it can work at this really, really low point, surely it can work for other people. And now I'm super passionate about helping people sleep better. And obviously the best job in the world is, most important job in the world is raising young people. And I encourage parents to see, there's 2 different kinds of parenting. One where you're in a state of fatigue, and then one when you're in a state of well-rested, connected strength. And, these kids, they never do what they're told necessarily, but they'll do what we do, and they'll take on board our habits. And without saying anything, when you're in a state of fatigue, the kids pick up on that. But when you're in a state of rest and connectedness, the kids pick up on that too. So it was particularly difficult for me when I did have time with my kids, when I was in a state of fatigue, to really hold clean space for them. And they would pick up something's not quite right. And, kids come up with all sorts of ideas about what they should and shouldn't do in those spaces if they feel like their parent is in a bit of a position of weakness. So turning that narrative around was as simple as focusing on me, my sleep first, and then offering the space to my children. Now, fortunately, they've grown up. My daughter's 19. She's got a a job. She's in the beauty industry. My son is traveling the world. He's also got a job as well. And so they're fully functioning. And I'm sort of in the stage now where, and before we started this, we were talking about our morning routines and how I love it, how before you connect to anything outside of your skin, you connect inside yourself. You go into your meditation, into your sunrise, into your connecting your body into the world around you, physically. And then you can pour out of your overfilled cup to others, because generosity is good. And I think it's right to have a heart of service. But I've done this, and I know a lot of parents do this, and that is they give of themselves. They don't give of their abundance. And what I noticed is when we give of ourselves, if we're just adequate, if I'm just at 100% and I give 10% away to somebody else, whether it's my kids or someone else, there's a part of me that thinks, oh, I'm down to 90%. You better do something with that 10%, or I expect an outcome from that thing that I've given to that other person. They need to react a certain way. So now I say I don't give of myself anymore. I give of my abundance. So good sleep, connecting to yourself first thing. You get access to 500%, not just 100%. And then out of that 500%, I can give away 20% a day, and it really doesn't matter if people love it, hate it, I get the outcome I want or not. I'm in touch with something so much greater, and I can do that consistently. So to me, consistency in your generosity with others starts with consistency with generosity to starting with yourself.
Totally. Yes. We can only give from overflow. And we
And
got
once you say that, it's so easy to say that, but we've all done it wrong.
Yeah. In my journey, I decided that I need to be happy, because if I'm miserable, everybody will be miserable. Because I was operating in that model where I was going through the motions, performing the tasks, the duties, mentally checked out, but just ticking off the boxes and not feeling present. I feel like I was rushing towards I called in my life, but I didn't feel like I was living. I was not connected. And so in that moment, I decided I wanted to be happy. I didn't know how or what or when, but that was kind of the breaking point from which I decided I gotta take better care of myself. And I started walking. I started watching the sunrises and doing all those things, because we have this amazing ability to choose, because life is going to throw things at us, but it's not our job to absorb them. We can observe them, but we don't have to internalize them. And
I love that.
Every time we have a choice of what happens and how we react. We have the control of our reaction. That's the only thing we have control over. And we get to decide. Because every day is an opportunity for us to be present and to create something different. We don't have to carry the baggage of yesterday into today. We have that amazing opportunity, but it's a choice. Some people like to stay in victimhood. They like to stay in pain and make the pain their life. And others want to make a different decision. So
you said
how did you...
Such a mouthful there, such a mouthful. And to me, the economy is based on us staying in our pain. Because the economy will say, yeah, have a coffee, have a beer, have a pill. We'll help you maintain your pain. We'll help you absorb it as opposed to observe it. So I love what you're talking there, because when you talk about your own happiness and connection to self and knowing that we can fill our own cup, that is the ultimate disruptive technology. It makes so many things outside of us completely redundant. You don't need them anymore because we do this for ourselves.
Yeah. So how did you arrive that kind of sleep was your catalyst?
So say that again. I lost it in the accent.
I said, how did you arrive that sleep was the catalyst that you needed to address?
Well, yeah. Let me just say this. In the Special Forces, we used to use sleep as a weapon of war. So in Afghanistan, we used to deliberately target our enemy's sleep because we didn't know anything of the science of it, but we knew if we could take it out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet. So these days, I say, if you say you care about somebody, you'll say you care about their sleep. And my awareness into this came from like a very dark place. So picture this. I just I just lost, post-divorce, lost house, home, all my money, regular access to kids. I was sleeping on the couch on the couch of my parents' place. And at 2 a.m., you can bet there was a war zone going off in my head that was worse than Afghanistan. You know, I could deal with Afghanistan, but this was something else altogether. And even though in that space I discovered two things, even though I knew breath work would help and regulate my nervous system, it's like I literally couldn't. So I discovered two things in that place. One is that your mind is like a garden. Whatever you water grows. And I was doing a great job at watering the weeds of stress. And those things were taken over the garden. And what ends up happening is eyeballs pop out of these stress weeds and they become sentient. They become very aware of the choices we make that feed them. And they become very aware of the things that we do that starve them. And they have no intention of being starved. So they're going to give you great resistance if you're going to do something that's empowering to you and kicking them out of the garden. It's a bit like, you know, before you do exercise, there's a part of you that says, let's do this later, let's not do this now. That's the disempowered parts of you, knowing that when you become empowered, they get kicked out. And so they're fighting for their survival. So that's why it's very easy to procrastinate. It's very easy to get distracted. Oh, look at this thing, when you're about to do something super powerful. So in that state at 2 a.m., the stress weeds were loving the amount of resources I was giving them. And even though I knew breathing would help, I couldn't do it. And so I get out of bed. I'm about to do self-harm of some form. Alcohol, drugs, self-harm, maybe all three. And I remember looking at my left thumb, and I just looked at my left thumb and I said, Tim, you can take one breath, take one effing breath. And I drove it into my chest. I went, and I'm like, that worked. It was like taking it was like coming up from the bottom of the ocean, taking this breath. Okay, take two. And I took 2 fingers and drove 2 fingers in my chest. Okay, this is working. Take three. And then get to 5, finger after finger, breath after breath. And then somewhere, Irina, between breath 14 and 18, the oxygenation of my neural pathways, you literally chemically override your brain with oxygen, that kicked out the stress weeds, and the rest of my brain was like, Tim, thank goodness you kicked out those stress weeds. This is working. Don't stop doing this. And I thought, how many other versions of reality did Tim hit the bottle, hit the pills? How many other people are in that situation where the stress weeds literally compel them to do the things they know they're not supposed to? And as a result, I started making these really silly recordings of just saying, breathe like this, breathe like that, because breath, we've been doing it our whole life. So it's an automatic function. So for us to create medicine from the breath, it needs to be a coached experience to create the medicine that's needed. And whenever I felt these stress weeds sort of disturbing my peace, I'd press play on these little things. And even though it was my own stupid voice, it worked. It worked. And it kept working. And I tell you, it was my best friend at 2 a.m. It was just so consistent. No matter how low, what I discovered, breath outranks your thinking mind. And in fact, I used to be a professional fighter, and I used to weaponize this power that breath had over the mind, because I was known as the yellow belt that could beat black belts. Not because I was more skillful, but I knew that if I could take their lungs out, didn't matter how smart they were, that goes to 0. They become a white belt when you take out their lungs. So when people say, oh, you beat that black belt, I'm like, no, I made him a white belt, and I beat the white belt. So this is just how powerful our lungs are, and it works in combat, but it also works to protect your peace. And this is where simply being aware of your inhale and exhale is the way to develop superpower habits of being present and open with people, because you're connected to you. You've got your circumference of safety and strength around you. And your breath is going to be your best friend. It's going to be there at 2 a.m. It's going to be there in the morning. It's going to be there when you're having a shitty time in traffic. And if my ignorance of the power that I had underneath my own skin was completely exploited, when I told a doctor I couldn't sleep, guess what he did? You know what he did. He gave me a bunch of pills. Okay. And I was in Australia, they call it a zombie veteran. I was a zombie veteran for 6 years. Okay. And I can't get that 6 years back, but as God is my witness, there's no way I want anyone else going through that without knowing that there's a natural and immediate alternative as simple as breathing a certain way.
Totally. I think breathing is so essential. We sometimes take it for granted and we forget about it. Whenever a bad situation arises, before reacting, all we can do is we can take a breath, and that kind of have a pattern interrupt and looking at the situation from a different point of view. Or in your case, you were able to bring yourself back to life. You were able to cut those stress eating, what do you call them?
Stress weeds. Yeah. The stress weeds that occupy your head, and they literally guide you to do the things that stress you out.
Right.
And I was in an environment where there was no threat, but these stress weeds would have me literally controlling my visual stimuli. Oh, that's not a box on the side of the road. That's a roadside bomb. And these are this is just how powerful this part of our mind can be, and it wants to be fed. It doesn't want you to do the things that get empowerment. And this is where healing's actually easy. What's hard is letting go of the things that are wanting you to stay broken.
Totally, because change is seen as dangerous. And the primary directive of our subconscious mind is to keep us safe. Safe means do the familiar thing. So if the familiar thing is broken and painful, at least it's something you know how broken and painful it is, versus something unknown that if you step in that territory, something worse could happen instead of something good. So we stay stuck often for many, many years and decades. And we have this amazing system, flight or fight response, which is great in the dire circumstance conditions. Let's say there is a fast car approaching, you gotta pull yourself out so you are staying alive. But what happens in nowadays, we have a different kind of reaction. We have a divorce, we have a loss. And I'm not saying it's simple. Yes, it is painful and it is difficult, but that pain, we choose to carry it. Everything is going to happen in our life, but we get to decide how
dare
long.
you tell me that I'm carrying my pain? This is terrible. How dare you tell me that I'm consciously carrying it? No, that's a big thing to step into. Am I causing my own suffering here? Is it me? Oh my gosh. We shouldn't laugh. I mean, we've all been there, right? But so we can laugh about it. But yeah, if this is causing a reaction to people, there's a good reason. Irina's talking some truth here, and behind that discomfort, there is a whole lot of freedom in what Irina is sharing. And hopefully you've already discovered it, but if you haven't yet, allow yourself to go into the unknown. There's some wondrous things to be discovered. I apologize for cutting you off, Irina. What you were saying was so powerful. I wanted to just reinforce it.
No, thank you. Yes. Why don't you share one of your breathing techniques?
Oh,
How
I'd love
long
to.
is it? Maybe a short.
Sure. Okay. Well, let me just say this. It amazes me how many professional athletes don't know how to breathe. It also amazes me how many people who study the Bible don't see the biblical principle of breathwork. Now, that might seem a bit strange. So when in the Bible, when God made man, he breathed in, and whether you believe it or not, it's interesting that they say this. When God made man, he took clay and he breathed into the clay. Where did he breathe into the clay? Through its nostrils. That's interesting, breathing through the nostrils, right? And for thousands of years, the ancient Chinese have been calling the nose heaven's gate. Modern science has caught up with the fact that when you breathe through a particular nostril, say you breathe through your left nostril, that activates your PNS, parasympathetic nervous system, the ability to relax, tell yourself you're safe and all is well, I can sleep. And then breathing through your right gets you out of bed in the morning, gets you ready to go, awaken, good to go. Who knew we had the power of creation hidden literally underneath our own noses? So all I'm going to do right now is just really show you a simple way to consciously control your state. So I'm going to show you one that'll help you go to sleep, and then I'll show you one how to wake up. Okay, and this is literally just the sampler out the front of the shop. I do have a shop full of goodies that we'll talk about later, but this is just a sample for you to use. So I'm just going to get everybody to just hold up your right thumb, okay? And with your right thumb, cover your right nose. And I just want you to breathe in and out through your left nose. Fantastic. Now notice when you breathe through your nose, you breathe a bit longer. Now for a bit of fun, we can open up, because some people see this, I've been punched in the face a few times, so I've got a deviated septum, right? So sometimes it's easier to breathe through one side. So with your right thumb on your right nose, pull this cheek away like so. Just give that a try. And then pull that away and then breathe in. Now notice how you've got more space to breathe in and out. So all we're going to do right now is when we breathe in, we're going to breathe in, but we're going to breathe in more. And then when we breathe out, we're going to breathe out more. So we're going to open up. So normally, if you think of your lungs, most people breathe here. We're going to open it up at the top more, and we're going to squeeze it out at the bottom. All right. So right thumb, right nose. And if you're having trouble breathing, simply push it away. But me, I'm okay on this side. So breathing in, more, looking up. Hold it, give it a wriggle, and then let it out. Keep blowing out through the nose, out. You'll be surprised how much you can get out. Hold it, sort of give it a wriggle, and then breathe in, up. Hold it, give it a wriggle, and then blow it out. And now let's just do 3 smooth breaths. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in. Open. Breathing out. Feel that extra space. You can blow it out. You'll be surprised how much you can blow out. Last one, all the way in. Now just hold it, wriggle it. Take your hands away. Just wriggle your shoulders, wriggle your back, open up that chest. Feel that chest opening up. That's it. And I invite you to let it out with a nice big sigh.
Very good. I didn't realize when you close one nostril that you have this interesting kind of thing happening on the other side.
Yeah. We all
and it
own
does
bodies.
make you feel your body,
Yep.
if it's stiff, anytime you breathe and you do this kind of movement, it feels so loose and so rested if you've been in one sitting or standing position for too long.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so this is what happens. It's a very joyful experience to connect back into our own bodies. And the breath is the quickest way to do that. So going to sleep at night, or even if you're, 2 a.m. struggling to sleep, focus, breathing through your nose. That will chemically override your own stress. And I always like to do it in sort of breaths of 5, because so I'll do 5. I might push a finger in at a time. And if I'm not where I want to be, I'll just do another 5. If I'm not where I want to be, I'll just do another 5. But somewhere in the mix, you're like, boom, there it is. There I am. Hello. I'm back connected into the body, which is like the phone charger. Imagine a phone if it never got charged up. It goes flat, right? And it ends up going on this power saver mode. And a lot of humans, without knowing it, are in this power saver mode. And just like the phone, when it's in its power saver mode, it doesn't unlock all its functions. It's just on the basic functions, and you start thinking, well, this is all life is. Just this is all we can do. So, controlling your breath doesn't just make you feel amazing. It unlocks all these other parts of you, which to me gets me super excited, because it's not the breath work that makes me excited. I love sharing it with people. I love showing how amazing their bodies are. But what makes me super excited is that once we connect to our bodies, it's like the soil from which we grow on becomes more fertile, and we can grow, we can become fruitful. All those dormant seeds of greatness that's lying, inside of everybody, that fatigue is not letting grow. Once you get out of fatigue, once you connect back into your own breath, those dormant seeds go, oh, there's enough energy around for me to flourish. And then boom, so to me, you don't need to go to a motivational course to flourish. You just need to connect into yourself, improve your sleep, and naturally, it's the most natural thing for a seed to flourish and grow. And if all you had to do was improve quality of sleep and connection to breath to have an amazing life that's fruitful and abundant, would you do it?
Yeah, totally. So what happened for you once you kind of unlocked that amazing power of breath for yourself? Well, how did you flourish?
Sure. Well, first up, certain things started falling away, like my dependency on alcohol, my dependency on pills, and not just pills for sleep, but pills for pain. So breath work is an anti-inflammatory. Post service in the special forces, I don't have a lot of cartilage left in my back. So I was on a lot of pills for pain, chronic pain, over 10 years. But breath work, I noticed, always dropped my pain scales and acts as an anti-inflammatory. And with that in mind, it's such a blessing to have chronic injuries, because if I do not do my breath work, it becomes very apparent in my body for pain scales that you haven't done your breath work because you're feeling pain. So pain is a massive withdrawal on your energy, and you end up looking into the future thinking, well, what do I know? I know I'm in pain. My cranky behavior is causing pain to others. If I look into the future, I don't see that changing. And it just sort of has us humans looking for comfort. And again, I look for comfort in pills and alcohol for many years. So the first thing I noticed was the great reduction in the need for external sources of power, because I realized I'm a sovereign individual. I can create my own power. I don't need all this stuff outside of me. And then there comes a natural part in a person's journey. It's one thing to discover it. It's a second thing to master it. I believe everyone's got like their special gift, but it's up to us to master that. And within that journey of mastery, there comes a point where you're like, well, it's not enough for me to know this. I'm part of a team. I've got to tip into their lives with this. And if they're open, I'm happy to show them. And I had to go to Afghanistan to realize that, I can be as strong as I like, but if my team around me is having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. And so now I actually think that everyone else is just another version of us. And if I went to the gym and just strengthened my arms, I couldn't say that I'm fully strong. So it's not enough for me to say I am physically strong when there's other versions of me that aren't connected into their own power, So here's a fun little thing that's literally happening today. Me and a veteran mate of mine, we're going into Brisbane City, and in the lunchtime busyness, we're giving out flowers with little cards of hope to people, to complete strangers, because it wasn't my idea. But when my mate said that, I'm like, that's stupid. But then I'm like, that's actually genius, because it makes a lot of sense to make all the other versions of us connect into their highest energy source, which is their heart. Flowers, cards, and I bring my doggy in there and I put a little tuxedo on him so people come up and pat the dog. And so this is where the flourishing happens, when you observe your generosity knows no bounds, because the access to your own strength knows no limitation. Does that make sense?
Totally. Speaking back to that, sharing from an overflow, when you are fulfilled, you can go and do those incredible things, passing down cards with the message of hope. Beautiful. Was there any book that you read that kind of inspired your journey or had a transformational effect in your life that you can recommend?
Now, I'm actually dyslexic, so I struggle to read and write, but audiobooks are my thing, and music really works for me. So there's a song by the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones called Never Had to Knock on Wood. And there's a line in there saying, I've never had to push myself. I know someone who has, but I like to think if I was given the opportunity, I could perform, right? And I thought, I don't want to be that guy that knows somebody. That's why there's a big cult of celebrities. There's a wonderful person living a wonderful life. I'm not living a wonderful life myself, but I'll follow someone who is. So I thought, well, no, I want to be the person who can, go to those places to test themselves, and it's quite unfamiliar and it can be quite uncomfortable. So if I was to give out a vibe, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, Knock on Wood, listen to the song. It's just got this question that's deeply asked in the most funky way. And that was super inspiring. Now, what I'll also do is I'll gift everybody my book. It's an audio book, and that talks about my journey that I hope will inspire everyone else as well.
Thank you. Awesome. Yes. What kind of advice would you share with single parents who are just stepping onto the journey of single parenting?
There's a lot to sort of think about in your head, which then takes you away from your body. And mental health isn't a mental health problem. It's a physical disconnect problem. And that physical disconnect problem happens when you start thinking, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Right? And that's the second when you've lost connection to your own body. So ancient Chinese saying, control your breath, control everything. That thing where you're focused outside of yourself and it's causing stress, when that stress lifts up, go straight into your nasal breathing, connect back into your power, because that stressful thing is just showing you, telling you, reminding you to connect back into your power. And if you can use that as a continual feedback loop, the life occurs very differently. So my vision, my goal for everyone I interact with is for them to become an energetic millionaire. So when you're an energetic millionaire, you don't worry if 50 cents get taken from you, right? But if you've only got $1, and I've been there, if I've only got $1 and someone takes 50, you give that back. I'm going to revenge that. I spend years trying to get that back because it was wrong. You took that 50 cents from me, and I completely forget that I could be an energetic millionaire the next day, right? So life occurs very different as an energetic millionaire than as an energetic pauper. So what you do in the mornings, Irina, getting your morning routine, you're becoming an energetic millionaire yourself. So whatever happens, you can see it in context. You know, someone might take $1. That's fine. I got like 1 million. All right. And I know where to get more from. So having that reciprocation point, and I think that's why we get sent all these things that stress us out and worry us, to make us realize, look, if we need to connect into our power, otherwise we just connect into what is our disempower. And there's no holding ground in this. You really have to sort of be the one to see it for yourself, because this world makes more money from you if you don't see your own power. So breathwork to me is the ultimate disruptive technology for the illusion that there's something more outside of us. So for single parents, I would use any opposition you're up against to connect to your breath, connect to your power, and live like that energetic millionaire. And life occurs very differently when you've got $1 million of energy than 50 cents worth of energy.
I love how you make that comparison back to energy. Yeah, totally. I love it. Thank you. What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
Well, I will own what I find works with my children, now adults. And it's really become apparent now they're becoming adults. And that is create a space for that child to feel they can say anything without judgment. And if they're asked questions or anything like that, you're not using it to make a point for yourself. One thing I do as a guy is I try and solve problems, right? So when my kids are telling me these problems, oh, here's a solution. No, they just want to know that they can unlock their jaw and go, blah, 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 right? And that is on the back of you creating a really clean, sincere space. And really, look, kids highlight in us all the places where not really being authentic and sincere. Because if you can be truly authentic and sincere with people, it's amazing how little is needed, because people feel safe enough to open up their most powerful energy center, which is their heart. And once that is open and you give them access to their own heart by providing that space, once they connect into that, because them blah, blah, blahing is just them clearing all the things out of the way for them to connect into their power place. And then you just stand back and watch the show. And that's why literally we're going into Brisbane City today to give out flowers and dog pats so people can access the most powerful part about themselves, their heart.
Thank you. I love that. Creating that safe space that they can unload, they can say what's on their heart, so they don't have to hold it inside and then you wondering or guessing what's happening. Amazing trait. What is your superpower if you had to pick one?
Well, I spoke to it before, but connecting to your heart, doing the things that truly light you up. Because when you're a fully lit individual, my question is, how much does it cost Here we go. I always light a candle because I'm holding space for you, for me, for everyone listening. All right. So if you're listening to this in audio, I literally have a candle burning because this is a very special time and it reminds me to be authentic. Right. So the question is, how much does it cost this candle to light other candles? Nothing. Right. It is easy and effortless is what we do. So each of us has a pathway into the light. It's a physical discipline. It's a mental discipline. I like to integrate breath with that. But you've got a unique energy signature, the things that you do in your life that light you up. And in that state of light, it is super easy to light others up. And I believe if you're going to call it a superpower, it is kind of, to me, it's how we're built. And once you tune into that, then it becomes, I mean, yes, getting up early, doing your meditation, doing your physical discipline, that might be considered hard. But once you do that and you're in that, lit, energetic state, other people very rapidly tap into that lit state. And when I sort of contextualize this, when I'm doing, my exercise, and I think if all I had to do was walk for 20 minutes to light up my day and light everyone else's day up, would I do it? Hell yeah. Right? If all I had to do was 20 push-ups, if all I had to do was meditation, 20 breaths, that's sort of how I contextualize my morning routine. So I guess my superpower, if I was to talk to the mechanics of it, I don't want to speak, ethereal, is I divide my day up into thirds. The first third is all about me, totally selfish about me. And the other 2/3, I pour generously into others. And if all I had to do was pour generously and connect into those things that light me up to then effortlessly and easily light other people up, would I do it? Well, hell yeah. And obviously my children are part of that. And so, yeah, I guess my superpower, the ability to light others, the of the day dedicated to myself. And then it's very joyful seeing other people light up as well.
Beautiful. Yes, we are all can share our own light, but again, after fulfilling our own cup. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
Well, I would love to gift all of your listeners 28 days of amazing breath-filled sleep. So I'll give some links to the show notes, but anyone with a smartphone or an Android, simply go into your app store, 3 words, breathwork in bed. A bit like breakfast in bed, but breathwork in bed. It is so easy to use. You literally tell this thing when you want to sleep, tell it when you want to wake up, and then you have these notifications falling out of your phone at the perfect time. So as you're going to sleep, you just tap it. It guides your breath. We can turn your bed into a cloud tonight. And then in the morning, with the morning wake up breath, it turns it into a trampoline. And I've noticed if you can win the first 5 minutes of the day, you've won the day. And it's so easy to do that before you leave the bed with your own breath. So breathwork in bed in your app store. I'd love to gift it to you. Just select the 28-day free trial. Or if you're that type, like, you know what, this is my thing now, then select the paid version. There's a bunch of bonus features as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. If people would like to connect and learn more about you, where would they go?
3 words, breathwork in bed. We are across all the socials.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom and your journey. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we'll include everything in episode notes.
Thank you, Irina. I just want to acknowledge you for holding such wonderful feminine space.
Thank you.
If today's conversation resonated with you, I just want you to try one thing tonight. Pause, breathe, and give yourself permission to receive rest. Tim reminded us that healing doesn't have to be complicated and that sleep, self-care, and breath work are powerful tools for mental health and emotional well-being, especially in single parenting. If this episode gave you hope or practical tools, please take a moment to leave a review and share it with another single parent who could use encouragement. Your support helps us continue bringing powerful stories and real-life tools for parents navigating this journey.